They had it in the script that Kelly walks up to Scott and takes me by the hand and we go upstairs. And I mean, when I first read that on that Monday, I'm like, I could tire. Like, this is the cred I'm going to get because everyone I knew watched Married with Children. So in like fake TV universe, I had sex with Kelly Bundy. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, nothing could be better than if it happened in real life in a weird way. And so we get in on Thursday and we do our read through, and that scene it's not in the script anymore. It's gone.
Please give it up for Scott Ian! Got a microphone. Hey, welcome. There's a microphone for you right there.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hey, everyone. Walter White is here.
Wow, scary. Well, welcome. Do you do very many Comic-Cons?
Comic-Cons? No, mostly horror cons.
Okay.
Because the horror and metal thing seems to go together pretty well. This is, as far as a crossover between crowds, this is the best Comic-Con I've done. I've done maybe only 2 other ones. Like, I remember I did Rhode Island and can't remember the other one. That's how memorable it was. And a lot of people just kind of walking by looking at me like, who's that dude? But yeah, this has been great. There definitely seems to be more of a crossover, certainly.
Yeah. It's great to have you. I have a couple questions for you, then we're going to open stuff off to the audience. Cool. I got to ask you, what was your first guitar, and how old were you when you started playing?
Well, the first guitar was some acoustic that just happened to be, I don't know why it was in our house. I was probably 8 years old because no one else played guitar in the house, but there was a guitar. And so I would dick around on it, and I asked my parents if I could get guitar lessons. So they got me guitar lessons, and then I was whining at them for about 6 months to get me an electric guitar because I was playing this really beat up old acoustic with nylon strings on it. And I really wanted an electric guitar because that was way cooler. And after about 6 months, they finally gave in to my whining. It was actually more my guitar teacher saying, he's taking this very seriously. You're not going to waste the money on the electric. It's not just going to sit in the corner and collect dust. And as soon as they bought me the electric, I said, I don't want lessons anymore. I want to do it on my own. And they're like, we just bought you a guitar. I said, I promise I'm not quitting. And
how old were you?
And that was a Fender Telecaster.
Oh, what was it, a Telecaster?
Yeah.
A Fender, not a knockoff.
No, it was an actual Fender, used. We went to some guitar shop near where we lived, and there was this, like, coffee table brown Fender Telecaster Deluxe. I think my dad got it for about $200. I wish I had that guitar now because it's about a $10,000 guitar.
It wasn't a thin line, was it?
No, but what I really wanted was the Stratocaster, but we couldn't afford the Stratocaster. But a couple of years later, I saved money, sold that Tele, and bought my first Strat.
Nice. So what bands got you into music? Who was like, I want to be like this band. I want to do this. I see this guy up there playing. I want to be that. What bands in your music world really got you motivated?
I guess Kiss was really the first because that was the first band that I got into that my parents didn't like. Like, we kind of shared a lot of, before I heard Kiss in 1975, and my parents had pretty decent music in the house, and like, they loved Elton John, and they loved all kinds of stuff that I was into as well. But then I found Kiss, and they did not like Kiss. And that's when I realized, like, oh, there's a whole other world of music besides what we hear on the car radio. And yeah, so that became my thing. And then I saw them in 1977 at Madison Square Garden. And I could actually say I walked out of that show knowing what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I never strayed from that path from that point on. And then in a more realistic way, because Kiss was, as much as that put me on the path of I want to be in a band, but it wasn't necessarily I want to be in a band that spits blood and blows fire. because that seemed completely unreachable. You know, they were playing a sold-out Madison Square Garden for 3 nights, and that I think that would have been a bit of a reach to say, well, that's what I'm going to do. But where I lived in Queens, in New York, that's where the Ramones were from, too. And I saw the Ramones on the Sha Na Na TV show. If anyone remembers what that even is.
Bowser.
But yeah, they had a TV show in the 70s, like a variety show. And my parents used to watch that. And I'm sitting there watching it one night, and they introduced the guest musical act, and it's this thing called the Ramones. And I was like just dumbfounded by these guys playing this real up-tempo, very aggressive sounding music. And then I found out they lived like 4 miles from where I lived. I was like, well, if these dudes from Queens could get on TV, and they're wearing Levi's and a leather jacket just like me, like, well, then I could probably do that at least. And the Ramones seemed much more realistic in my brain. So those were definitely the 2 biggest influences early on.
Did you go see a lot of concerts?
Oh, yeah. From my parents, I had an uncle who was only 10 years older than me, so he would take me to shows. Me and my brother, he would take us. But it was a different time back then because that was all like 73, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like I got to see lots of stuff with my parents. I saw Paul Simon. I saw all kinds of stuff that I certainly wouldn't have gone on my own to see when I was 11. But
was that your first concert?
Paul Simon. No, it's hard to remember. It was either Paul Simon or Elton John.
Okay. Right
around the same time, 72 or 3. But when I saw Kiss in 77, somehow I convinced my mom that it would be cool for me to take my brother. I was just about to turn 14. My brother was 11. And it was like 6 of our friends, all my age. And we convinced my mom that we would just take the train into Manhattan from Queens and go to the show ourselves. Which, in a million years, I've got a 12-year-old. That's not happening until he's like 30. I would forget it. I guess. And New York City was a way more dangerous place in 1977 even than it is now. And my mom was cool with it. So I'm not sure what that story says, but at the time of my life. But yeah, from that point on, I was able to go to concerts on my own in the city. So yeah, anytime I had enough money to get tickets, obviously I lived in New York, so everybody played New York City. The problem with that was, even when tickets were only $5, we didn't have any money. Yeah. So if I had already bought tickets to, let's say, see, I'm trying to think, Rush, well, then all of a sudden AC/DC's coming on the Highway to Hell album, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have money to see AC/DC. Well, I'll see him next time, Wow. And then Bon died, so I never got to see him with Bon, because I couldn't come up with $5 to go see AC/DC. Like, that's how it was.
Did you go to CBGB's much?
Not in those early days, no. I started going there in '84 because of the hardcore shows. They would do hardcore matinees on Sunday afternoons, and a lot of the hardcore bands I liked would come through, and the New York hardcore bands played there on Sundays. So that's when I started going to those shows. I was too young when all the punk and new wave stuff was happening there in the late 70s. I couldn't go. I was too young. I couldn't get in. Even with my fake ID, you couldn't get in there because the guy who owned that place, Hilly Crystal, if you were 14, he'd bounce you out on your ass. So that wasn't something I was going to mess with at that age.
So we're going to get to you guys' questions. I have a couple more for you. If you have a question, just head over to that wall, and Kyle will take care of you. If you're on, everybody might as well go over there. That'd be all cool if everybody can go over to that side of the wall. So is there any guitarist that you watch that your jaw just drops, that you just really enjoy watching?
I mean, a lot, Eddie, for me, Eddie Van Halen was my favorite. I know that's it's not news that he was the best, but certainly in my life, I know the generation before me, Hendrix came along and reinvented guitar, and and I love Jimi Hendrix too. But for me, when I first heard Eddie, I was sitting in junior high school lunchroom, and there was like 6 of us that had long hair and leather jackets, and we would eat lunch together, and nobody would even bother us because we were that pathetic. There was like, in a school of 4,000 kids, there was like the 6 long-haired leather jacket dudes. They were just, oh, those guys are the worst. And my friend David would bring a little boombox in with, and we'd listen to tapes at lunchtime. And he brought in that first Van Halen record, and he had it queued up to Eruption, and he puts it on, and it comes in, and we didn't know even how my jaw hit the floor. We didn't know what tapping was yet, and we couldn't figure out how he was playing so many notes. And just a complete head explosion at the time, and that never stopped. He was my favorite from the moment I heard him. He's also a great rhythm guitar player too. He's the whole package. But so many guys over the years. I mean, even to me, Johnny Ramone. People think the Ramones were very caveman and very simple, and it was, but he's downpicking all of that stuff, and at the speed that he's downpicking those chords, I challenge anybody to pick up a guitar and do that. I have to warm up for like 90 minutes to do that. Still, just incredible guitar player. Guys like Randy Rhoads, Dimebag. I feel like I'm mentioning only dead guitar players. Nuno Bettencourt, there you go. Some people have mentioned to me today they've seen me on YouTube. A couple years ago, I got to be with a bunch of dudes, and we played the theme for Game of Thrones. Yeah, it was this Fender thing. Fender did these Game of Thrones houses from Game of Thrones. They did custom guitars based on the different houses. I was playing the House of Stark guitar, and we did the theme, and we broke it down for 5 guitar parts, and all those dudes in the room that day, but for me especially Nuno. I mean, that guy he's just ridiculously good and has such his own thing going on, and his own vibe and feeling and sound. A couple of years ago, they had one of those, I don't know if it was called G3 or it was one of those things, but it was Nuno and Zach, another insane guitar player, and Yngwie, and this guy Tosin Abasi, and Steve Vai. So it's these 5 dudes, right? And I was going with a friend who dragged me along, because to me, as much as I love sick guitar playing, to go sit there and listen to 5 hours of instrumental, it's kind of it's a bit of a nightmare. But I had the time of my life, man, and all those dudes, it's just insane, the level of talent and what they can do and the sounds they create. Tosin Abasi, I don't know if you've heard of this guy, is in a band called Animals as Leaders. And I looked at my buddy and I said, so I'm convinced this guy's from 100 years in the future. He came back in his time machine to show everybody how they play guitar 100 years from now, because it was just so different than anything I'd ever heard. And so yeah, there's a whole bunch of dudes. If you don't know them, you should check them out.
I got to ask, did you get to keep your Game of Thrones guitar?
No. No. And we all thought that was kind of going to be the thing at the end of the session, that we would each get to have the one we played, but no, because usually that's what happens.
That's what happens.
And no, it didn't happen. And then I'll let you in on a little secret. So a couple of weeks later, we all get a very nice email from Fender, and I have nothing bad to say about Fender. I play Jackson guitars and EVH amps, and it's all under the Fender umbrella, and they've treated me very, very fantastically over the years. And we all get this very nice email about how many millions of views this thing has gotten, and how many of these custom, very expensive, I think the Lannister one was $40,000 or something to have built. And they sold a shit ton of these custom-built guitars based on this video. Yeah. That they're like, thank you so much for doing this for us and all that. So I get a text from Nuno not 5 minutes after these emails. They obviously emailed everybody involved at the same time. And he's like, excuse my language, these motherfuckers. He goes, I just did the math. They made about $9 million on the fucking video we made, and they couldn't even give us a guitar. And I'm like, hey, brother, you're preaching to the choir. I'm with you.
And they never made amends. They never.
No. Again, I love Fender, but damn it, I want one of those.
Because when I saw it, it was like, oh, I bet he's really, loving that.
That guitar, I was playing that Stark Telecaster.
Right.
It sounded great.
So it's interesting. You went back to the
literally
Telecaster
said,
again.
well, if you would like to borrow it for a session, and I was like, borrow it? Like,
So it's kind of funny, a Telecaster in your life again.
yeah. Well, I have many Telecasters.
I know, but
in my
your
life.
first
Yes.
electric.
Yes.
So before we get to the questions, I got to ask you real quick about Mr. Bungle.
Sure.
Now, the name came from Pee Wee Herman, am I correct?
Well, no, I'm not originally. I got asked to join the band a few years back.
Oh, okay.
But I'm pretty sure when they formed Mr. Bungle back in like 1985, and Pee Wee Herman showed that old video, with a public service announcement video from like the 1950s of the kids in school, and wash your hands. Only a Mr. Bungle wouldn't wash his hands after using the restroom. That whole thing. And so I'm pretty sure that's where the name came from.
Yeah. So how did that band all I mean, nothing sounded like that band. How did that all come about? Nothing sounded, and it's my...
Yeah, well, they are the best musicians, Trevor and Trey and Mike, and they're all geniuses. I mean, they read and write music. They're all, Trey and Trevor are both like jazz masters, and it's the level that they are at is a completely different level than most people on the planet, and that's why those Mr. Bungle albums sound the way they do, because they have to come up with things that they're not bored with. And it's very hard to, for those guys to come up with something that's going to hold their interest. And I just shocked back in 2019 or whenever, when Mike Patton called me and asked if I wanted to be in Mr. Bungle. And I was like, yeah, you guys might have to teach me a lot of chords. But it's they're the best. I've been a fan since I heard a demo like back in around 87. And so it's like a Make-A-Wish thing for me. I'm a huge fan of Mike Patton's, and we've been friends forever. And it's just so cool that I get to, make music with him.
Nice. We're going to get the questions over there. There's some water for you if you get thirsty.
Sure.
And then I'll be over here if anybody has any questions. Kyle, please, first question.
All right, first one.
Hey, Scott, thanks for coming.
Sure.
Okay, I got a comment. Seen you many times, huge fan. The greatest show I ever been to was Headbangers Ball at the Syria Mosque. The first one, any ideas of, since Charlie's doing with Pantera, you're doing with Mr. Bungle, about getting back with Billy and doing an SOD reunion?
No.
No? Okay. And other than The Night, any other stories?
Nothing against Billy. It's just there's no time.
Yeah.
Anthrax is making a record now, which everything is just leading towards that coming out next summer, and then we're busy again for 2 years, and then we're only a couple of years away from our 50th anniversary, and I mean, it's just there's just no time.
And then, other than The Night, any other cool stories about Cliff?
Oh, about Cliff Burton.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I was talking to someone the other day. It wasn't an interview. I can't remember who I was talking to, but they had asked me something, and somehow it ended up related to when I first met those dudes at Metallica, and they were rehearsing in the same building with us in Queens. They had a room upstairs, and I remember like the second night they had gotten there, and they set up in their rehearsal room, and they set up differently than any band I had ever seen in a rehearsal room. Most, like the way we set up, or any other band I saw, you'd set up your gear like a backline, like you were playing a show. Like, so if you were on the stage, it would all be on the wall, and here's the kit and the amps, and everything's facing you guys. But in their rehearsal room, they set up with everything in a circle facing in, and they were inside the circle playing. I was like, wow, that's weird. I've never seen anything like that. And I'm sitting in the room in this little circle, and they're all, me and like Danny Lilker were sitting there, and I think Charlie might have been there that night, and they start jamming. This is when Mustaine was still in the band, and they start playing the songs that were going to be on Kill 'Em All. And I mean, the energy was just insane. I had never heard songs like that and a band that tight. And there's Cliff banging his head like he's playing to 10,000 people in an arena, and it's just them and like 3 of us sitting on the floor drinking beer. And he was going for it like it was the last show he was ever going to play or something. And I was like, God, this guy's a fucking maniac. Like, it's just rehearsal, dude. Like, but then, you know, he couldn't help himself. It's just who he was. He felt it that strong and that deep, and the music moved him that way that it didn't matter. It didn't matter. If he's playing his bass, that's what was going to happen. And I just thought it was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen.
Hi, Mr. Ian.
Hi.
I was wondering, what was it like working, guest starring on Married with Children, especially with Christina Applegate?
It was amazing. I know. I just saw David earlier, and I guess Katie Segal is supposed to be here too. I don't know if she's here already, but I'm hoping to get a picture with the 2 of them. It was an amazing week when we got to do that. I don't know if you know how TV works, but those kind of shows, you get there on a Monday, you get your script, you all sit around a table and read it, and then you come back like Tuesday, you do the same thing. They've made some changes in the script. Then you come in on Wednesday, you read it again. They've made changes, but now you go down to the set and they do the camera blocking, so you're all in the places where you're supposed to be in your scenes and all that. And it keeps basically evolving till you get to Friday. And then they do 2 tapings on Friday, an early show and a late show. And they're even changing stuff in the script between the 2 shows. So just when you finally, as for a bunch of non-actors, after a whole week, you finally get like not shitting your pants nervous over having to say your lines. And then they're changing it right before you tape. And you're like, I just got the other one. Like, and, but Christina specifically, I had there was a thing with her where in the original version of the script, all the way up till Thursday, there was a scene in the script where she was going to take one of the band members, like we're sitting on the couch in the living room, and she comes over and she takes one of the band members by the hand and walks upstairs to go have sex with that band member. Lucky for me, it was me. They had it in the script that Christina Kelly walks up to Scott and takes me by the hand and we go upstairs. And I mean, when I first read that on that Monday, I'm like, I could fucking retire. Like, this is the cred I'm going to get, because everybody I knew, everyone I knew watched Married with Children. So in like fake TV universe, I had sex with Kelly Bundy. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, nothing could be better than if it happened in real life in a weird way. And so we get in on Thursday and we do our read through, and that scene it's not in the script anymore. It's gone. And there's I have some other line. So I was like, what the fuck? And so I walked over to one of the producers after we were done, and I said, hey, what happened to the scene where Kelly and I walk upstairs? Because we had rehearsed it a couple of times. Like I walk up those little steps. I don't know if you remember the set, and there's nothing back there. You just go out a door, and it's just the back of the stage. And then we would just stand there for like 5 seconds and like, duh, and then walk back in. I said, what happened to that scene? He's like, oh, yeah, we all loved it. All the writers thought it was really funny, and it was going to get a big reaction. But Christina came in the office last night after we were done, and she said, the scene where I take Scott up? And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, I know my character's a slut, but she's not that much of a slut. My reaction exactly. It was the sound of a crowd going, oh. So yeah, I didn't say anything to her about it after that, but it was great. It was amazing. We took her to see Metallica. We took both of them to see Metallica, David and Christina, but at different times. Different shows, but yeah, just had a great time with all of them.
All right, next question.
First off, I want to say I'm a huge fan. Anthrax is my favorite band out of the Big Four.
Thank you.
And speaking of the Big Four, how was like the whole Big Four experience? And I know it's probably never going to happen now that Slayer retired. But if you could do it again, like who would you replace Slayer with if Sed did it again without Slayer?
Well, you have to ask Metallica that question because they're
that more than anybody.
They're the captains of that ship. So, and they were kind enough to let the other three bands. It's like an ocean liner and 3 plastic rafts dangling along behind it. They were kind enough, they made a decision when Lars, Charlie and I went to Metallica's Hall of Fame induction in Cleveland. I think it was like 2009 or something. They invited us out for that, and we were at the party they threw, and everyone's having some drinks and hanging with Lars, and he says, "What do you think about doing some Big Four shows?" And I didn't even know what he was talking about. I was like, "What's Big Four shows?" And he said, us and you guys and Slayer and Megadeth. I said, oh, sure, yeah. Thinking like, sure, whenever, let us know. Like, I don't think it's for real. It's just a drunk talk. And so a couple of months go by, and our manager gets a call and asking what our availability is, for these shows that Metallica wants to do. And I was like, he was serious? Like, wow. Like, they were thinking about it all that time in advance. They already knew, like, a year ahead that they wanted to do that. And we were just, it couldn't have been better for us because we had just gotten Joey back in the band in 2010. And we were working on the album that was to become Worship Music. And what better way to get back out there? There was no bigger way than to Metallica saying, let's go do these shows and play stadiums all over the place. And here's our stage. There's 80,000 people. The rest is up to you. And, we did our best, and we had an amazing run of shows on that. And it really did relaunch us in a huge way. And yeah, had nothing but fun. Yeah, it was like a high school reunion for months, like anytime you'd be backstage and it's all your friends, all dudes in bands. We've known each other since the early 80s, and crew guys, we've all known each other since the 80s. And it was amazing. It was the best summer camp ever.
Thank you.
All right, next question here.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, man.
Last Steel City Con, Frank was here. I asked him about when you guys were on set, Battlestar Galactica, how that happened. So rather than repeat that, how did the collaboration with Bear McCreary come about when you did the plan? And have you ever done anything else with him? I know he's worked with Serge Tankian and Gene Hoglan and things like that lately. So what was
I just played on Bear. Bear McCreary has I don't know how much I should say, but he's been working on an album, a rock album, metal album. And I do play on it. And he's got a lot of cool people on it. And I don't know what the release date for it is. I think it's this year. I don't want to say much else because I don't think he's talked about it too much. But I can't remember how we first met, but I was a fan of his before I met him, just, based on his Battlestar Galactica work and Walking Dead. And I mean, I think he's got a great vibe. He's an amazing writer, music, incredible composer, I should say. And and a great dude.
All right, let's do a last round of questions. But before I say anything else, thank you, Scott, for coming out and doing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
So
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Absolutely. He's going to be headed back to his table. He's got photo ops. Please, I'd hang out with him if I didn't have to work. Any show of hands for last question right over here? And then Kyle, I think you have a final question. We have a question right down here.
Hey, Scott. It's actually a two-parter. The Married with Children episode. what was the stuff you guys were eating out of the fridge? Like, actually, what was it supposed to be? And two, can you tell us about the epic face plant during the Big Four, during the rainstorm in Bulgaria, I think it was, you were talking about?
Epic face plant?
When you scratched the Gene Simmons tattoo on your knee, you were talking about it on the DVD, the Big Four DVD.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, it wasn't really a face plant. I went down pretty hard, though. And yeah, this knee took the brunt of it. I think it was like, it's always cool. I mean, it's not cool because it hurts. And then you're trying not to limp around on stage. But what the cool part was, it was bleeding. And anytime there's blood on you, you know, it looks cool on stage. One time on tour, I made the mistake of going snowboarding. We were in like Austria, and I'm like, oh, there's a snowboarding an hour from the venue. Maybe I'll go. And I rented shit, and I went, and I took a gnarly fall, and like knocked unconscious, cut my head open, and still had to play a show that night. And yeah, blood was just oozing through this, and blood was coming. It was very black metal. I had blood just running down my face the whole gig. Turns out I had a concussion, and the doctor said, you shouldn't be playing any more shows, and we still have like a month left on the tour. And I said, I can't go home. I got all these shows to play. And so I didn't headbang for about 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah, that Big Four one wasn't as bad because I didn't hit my face or my head. And the first part, the mystery pack on Married with Children, yeah, their props people, it was like this foil, and they just filled it with like Jell-O and whipped cream, and I don't know what else that made it. It was very creamy and thick, however, but it was like Jell-O and whipped cream. It wasn't terrible, because we actually did have to taste it and all that. I don't know what it was supposed to be, but whatever it was, it supposedly was. We were tripping on it.
Okay, any more questions? All right, Kyle, take it home.
All right, so I actually asked this question of Frank as well. When you're playing on stage, it's live, things go wrong, you got to roll with it. Any stories about things going wrong that you had some trouble recovering from, but you worked through?
Not from our end, because even if gear stuff, if something like for so long, our equipment and that kind of stuff, it's so bulletproof and with redundant rigs. So if like one amp goes down, it's instantly my tech is able to just switch over, and it's not like I'm sitting up there with one amp, and if it goes down, what do I do? That stuff we've had wired for so long. But sometimes, like I noticed lately in shows, a lot of artists have been getting shit thrown at them, and shows stopping because people are hitting people in the head with cell phones. And I'm like, what the fuck is because I remember back in the day, especially in like the mid and late 80s, people like to throw fireworks at you when you were on stage. Like, you know how I'm sure many of you have lit a whole pack of firecrackers and you throw it and it's like, bah, 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 bah. Like, people would throw that shit at the stage and you'd be like jumping around trying to dodge it. But we didn't put up with that shit. Like, when that would happen, we would fight people. And we didn't have to recover from it. The people that were getting kicked and punched would have to. We were once opening for Maiden at this big outdoor venue in Irvine, California in like 90 or something. And some dude kept throwing firecrackers at us. And I'm looking around, like trying to see who's doing it. And because it couldn't have been from that far away. And I said twice to the crowd, I said, you all can see and hear the firecrackers, 15,000 people. Someone keeps throwing firecrackers at us. You do it one more time, we're leaving. We're done. And everyone's booing, and we start playing. I think it was like I Am the Law, and we start playing again, and bah, 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 firecrackers. We fucking stopped the song right there, and I'm like, who the fuck did that? And like 3-4 rows deep, all these people are pointing at one guy. It's him, right? It's him. So security guards go running, and they grab this guy out of the seats. So we're up on stage, And to get the guy out of the venue, they had to bring him past the first row out like that way. So as they start bringing him this way, I just throw my guitar down, jump down, and I just fucking nail the dude. Meanwhile, as I'm punching the guy, I see a foot flying through the air past my head, and it's Frankie had done like a fucking flying drop kick off the stage, like Jackie Chan shit. And like, bam, nails this dude with this. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and then all the security guys back off, and I'm figuring, oh, well, this guy's learned his lesson. The guy like gets up to like come at us, so Frankie and I hit him, and then we got back, and the whole crowd is like chanting "Anthrax, Anthrax." It's like there's bloodlust in the air, and then security grabs this dude and they drag him out, and no more firecrackers after that. And then after the show, we're sitting in the dressing room like, wow, that was crazy. And the sheriff shows up. Sheriff and like 2 deputies come knocking on the door, and we're thinking, oh, fuck, we're going to jail for assault. And I'm like, God damn, we should have got the fuck out of here as soon as we were done. And the sheriff says, well, we're just here to see if you guys want to press charges against the guy for throwing fireworks. We're like, oh, we thought we were in trouble. He goes, no, that's self-defense. So we didn't press any charges. We said, we think he learned his lesson. And we let him off the hook after that. But yeah, that shit used to go on all the time.
I think I learned my lesson if I got beat up by Anthrax.
Totally.
I just wish everyone had if only someone would have had that on video of like Frankie's flying kick. It was like, it would be the most viral thing of all time.
We can't thank you enough for coming out and doing this. It's
cheers,
so
thank
awesome. Scott Ian, come on, you can do better than that. What a great Q&A. Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, this is Aaron Ashmore, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe like now. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom.